This is the brief on Fabio Cannavaro. He's a legendary football defender, back in the global spotlight, taking a shock job to lead Uzbekistan into their first ever World Cup in 2026. First, you gotta look at how he played. At just 5'9", Cannavaro wasn't your typical towering center back, yet he absolutely dominated for clubs like Parma, Juventus, and Real Madrid. He was basically a defensive chess grandmaster. How does a 5'9" guy beat literal giants in the air? By jumping a split second before they even know the ball's coming, relying totally on elite timing and tactical brains over brute force. Second, that tactical genius really peaked when he captained Italy to win the 2006 World Cup. His defense was so impenetrable they actually called him the Berlin Wall. They kept 5 clean sheets, conceding just 2 goals the entire tournament. And get this, he won the 2006 Ballon d'Or and is still the only defender ever named FIFA World Player of the Year. Defenders almost never win these awards, proving just how flawless his campaign was. Finally, let's talk about his move to the touchline. After coaching stints in China, Saudi Arabia, Italy, and a pretty brief spell at Dynamo Zagreb, he signed a 2-year deal managing Uzbekistan for their 2026 World Cup debut in North America. You kind of have to wonder, will his highly pragmatic defensive philosophy actually translate to managing a true underdog nation on the world's biggest stage? While his legacy as an impenetrable defender is permanently set in stone, Cannavaro's ultimate test as an international manager is just beginning.
Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine being the absolute best in the world at your job, winning the ultimate prize, and doing it all while mathematically and physically being considered like too short to even step into the role.
Yeah, it is the kind of contradiction that completely breaks how we evaluate talent.
Right. So our mission today is deconstructing that exact contradiction. For anyone who has ever had to perform under just crushing expectations, we are breaking down Fabio Cannavaro's evolution into a 2006 football legend. We're pulling from match analyses and historical stats to see exactly how a defender builds a championship team.
Yeah.
And it really starts with the massive shadow he had to step out of. I mean, if you've ever had to take over a leadership position from a beloved predecessor, you know it's a total nightmare. Everyone expects you to be them.
Oh, exactly. And that was the crucible Cannavaro walked into after the 2002 World Cup, inheriting the Italian captain's armband from Paolo Maldini. I mean, you look at the sheer volume of Maldini's career, and the pressure makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both men played in 4 World Cups, but Maldini holds a significant edge in appearances. He has 23 to Cannavaro's 18 and total wins at 14-9.
But Cannavaro secured the one thing Maldini never did. Maldini's era was defined by near misses, peaking as a runner-up in 1994. Cannavaro was the one who actually hoisted the trophy in 2006.
Right.
And funny enough, despite dominating the world stage, neither of these legendary defenders ever scored a single World Cup goal.
Because goal scoring simply wasn't the assignment. Their ultimate value was absolute prevention.
Right.
So by the 2006 tournament, Cannavaro had evolved from a statistically great center back into this force of complete mental dominance. He lifted the trophy on his 100th cap, and the sources heavily credit his on-pitch captaincy and emotional regulation for getting them there.
Hold on, though. I have to push back a little because people always throw the word leadership around after a team wins a trophy.
Sure.
It sounds great in a documentary, but was he actually doing anything tactical on the fly? Or was he just the loudest guy clapping his hands when things got tense?
Well, it's a vital distinction to make because it was absolutely tactical. Take the final against France. Zidane scores an audacious penalty in the 7th minute.
Right, the Panenka.
Exactly. And the psychological blow of going down early in a World Cup final is devastating. Normally, panic sets in,
Yeah.
The back line starts pushing too high to chase the game, leaving all these gaps.
Oh, I see.
But Cannavaro's leadership was entirely mechanical. He physically slowed the tempo down. He directed the defensive line to drop slightly deeper to ensure no one made a rash, aggressive challenge. He was effectively putting a tactical safety net under his team's panic.
So he is translating the emotion of the moment into physical geometry for the rest of the team.
Yes, he was constantly scanning the space, making split-second choices to absorb the pressure until the midfield could stabilize.
That is a brilliant concept for anyone in a high-stakes environment. When the pressure spikes, you don't just yell, "Stay calm." You give your team a specific structural framework to rely on.
Right, and that structural calm fueled a physical shutdown. During Cannavaro's 690 minutes on the pitch in Germany, Italy conceded 0 open play goals.
Wait, 0 open play goals in an entire World Cup tournament?
0.
That is insane, especially when you remember that the guy anchoring that entire defensive structure was only 5'9".
Which is incredibly short for a center back going up against towering 6-foot-plus center forwards. But he completely rewrote the physics of the position.
How did he even manage that? I mean...
Well, he compensated with a vertical leap of over 60 centimeters.
Wow. You know, when I was reading the source materials on how he contested headers, it immediately made me think of judo or Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, it's not about matching strength for strength. It's about recognizing a taller opponent's center of mass and using perfect leverage to uproot them. But how does a 5'9" guy physically achieve that leverage against a massive striker without just getting bowled over?
It all comes down to his flawless one-on-one mechanics. He never faced an attacker square on. He always kept a side-on body position with his knees deeply flexed.
Okay, so he's staying really low.
Exactly. This drops his center of gravity significantly below the taller attacker's hips. By keeping his balance shifted slightly backward, he's protecting the space behind him while remaining coiled like a spring.
Ah, so he's ready to explode upward.
Precisely. And crucially, his eyes were locked entirely on the ball, ignoring the attacker's body feints.
Right, so he doesn't get tricked.
Yeah, he waited for the exact microsecond. The striker's touch was heavy, planted his back foot, and used that low center of gravity to launch upward and forward. He was disrupting the attacker before they could even set their feet.
Man, he turned physical disadvantages into a purely intellectual style of defending.
Yeah.
And now, in 2026, we're seeing him try to pass that exact mindset on.
Yeah, he's currently the head coach of the Uzbekistan national team, trying to guide them to their World Cup debut.
Which has to be a completely different kind of crucible.
Oh, absolutely. He has to take that deeply internalized spatial awareness and emotional regulation and synthesize it for a totally new generation of players stepping onto the global stage.
Which makes you look at how drastically the game itself has evolved since he lifted that trophy. Tactics are completely different now. We expect every player on the pitch to be an attacker in some capacity.
Yeah, the game is so much more expansive.
Right, and it leaves you pondering something, you know? If a purely defensive mastermind, like the 2006 version of Cannavaro played today, would modern football's absolute obsession with ball playing, attacking center backs, prevent him from ever winning a Ballon d'Or?